I want to show you one of the best Diablo 4 Druid builds, and that is the Big Earth Bear, the Pulverize Bear build. This is the best build for leveling and pushing into tier 4 content. Everything is made easy with this build. I played it as my main Druid build from around level 40 to 70, and it has made everything so easy. You can take on things 5 to 10 levels above you without breaking a sweat. I got into World Tier 4 at around level 65 on this build, and I was grinding dungeons against things that were 73 straight after. This build has almost everything you need. Crazy high damage, huge AoE, huge range, and some of the best defense of any build out there. So how does the Big Earth Bear work? The build focuses around the Werebear form and staying in that form as much as possible. And then we do a few things so that pretty much every single ability in that bear form grants us fortify. So we just become an absolute tank. And with all that fortify, we use the aspect of retaliation, which deals increased damage based on your fortify. On top of this, we turn our skills into earth skills, which makes them usable in bear form. And then we can play on earth skill damage, increased damage with earth skills, crowd control, damage to crowd controlled enemies. And overall, this is just a crazy build. The main playstyle is just charging into groups of enemies, popping massive fortify shields, and then smashing the ground and destroying everything on screen. Because of certain aspects, this Pulverize does an AoE, it does a ranged attack, it can just destroy everything, including elites in seconds. You can be surrounded by stuff 5 levels above you, and you can 2-hit them and take the hits from them because you're so defensive. So let's get straight into the build, starting with the aspects and the gear. One unique I would go for is this one. If you've got it, or if you can try and look for it, just get hunting for this because it's really good for this build. Vassal's Prayer. Your earth skills are now also werebear skills and fortify you for 4 to 9 fortify. So that's really, really good because it means that you can use your earth skills in werebear form. This is really good because it gives us earth skills in werebear form, which we want to be in as much as possible, and we get fortify when we use them, which is just, it's probably the perfect unique. The next unique I have is Insatiable Fury. This is not as recommended, not as required. It's definitely recommended. If you've got it, use it. If you can get it, go for it. It's really, really good. But yeah, your werebear becomes the true form and 2 ranks in all werebear skills. Huge damage increase. You're a werebear more, so you can play off more of the werebear buffs. Really, really useful. And the other unique I have is Temerity. Effects that heal you beyond 100%, give you a barrier. Really good with the whole like defensive strategy we're going for. But these two are definitely not required. This one probably I would try and use it. I'm in tier 4 now, so all my gear pretty much is ancestral, apart from things that I just can't upgrade. But I've only got the sacred version of this, and I'm just keeping it because it's that good. I'm looking for the ancestral version, but I'll keep this as long as I can. If you're in 50 plus and you've got the basic version of this, I just keep it because it's that good. Okay, so on to the aspects. First up, Ursine Horror. Pulverize is now an earth skill, perfect, and casting Pulverize makes spikes form around us. That's really useful. It makes a big AoE of spikes. We're going to be in the middle of loads of enemies, huge for damage, and it makes it an earth skill, which is perfect. Then we go down to the quicksand aspect. Damage from earth skills slows enemies by 50%. That sounds bad. Like, that doesn't sound like something you really want. However, there's so much we can do here that works on crowd control enemies. And if we go on the stats, crowd control, it includes, so there's a bit of debate if slow is a crowd control. It 100% is. Damage to crowd control enemies. This includes enemies affected by slow. So let's just get that started. Definitely works on crowd control. So once you have that, that means that every time you hit them with an earth skill, they're slowed. Everything's going to be slowed, which means we can use every single thing that gives us crowd control, such as the ring here. Umbral aspect restores 3 of your primary resource when you crowd control an enemy. If you think we pulverize, we're going to hit everything with the earth pulverize. We're going to hit everything on the screen. That means we're going to get resource back for all those crowd controlled enemies we're hitting. So this is a really, really good combo. Next, I would get this one, Rampaging Werebeast. The duration of Grizzly Rage is increased by a number of seconds. In addition, crit strikes increase your crit damage. So that's just really good. We want to be in the bear form as much as possible. Grizzly Rage is like the raged bear form. We want to be in that as much as possible. Then the Shockwave. Pulverize creates a shockwave that travels forward, dealing a % of damage towards its target. This makes the Pulverize a huge AoE. So the clips I showed at the start where you just send a massive AoE forward, that's from this. I would say if you can get this on a 2-handed weapon, go for it. If you can make this build work that way, go for it. I wanted too many aspects. I got greedy and I took too many aspects. But if you can drop one of these and get this at maxed stat on a 2-handed weapon, that's the ideal scenario. Then on the rings, we talked about the Umbral. Then you want Retaliation. Core skills deal up to a % of damage based on your fortify. This is a really, really good one. You're going to be fortified pretty much all the time. You're going to have constant fortify. And then finally, Crash Stone. So earth skills deal 40% more crit damage to crowd controlled enemies. Everything's earth skill. Everything's going to be earth skill. Like this is huge. This is what you want. This is a really, really good one. So if you don't have the uniques I mentioned, here's a couple of things that you could try and get, a couple of aspects that work instead. So this one's really good, the Disobedience aspect. Increased armor for 4 seconds when you deal any sort of damage, stacking up to 50%. This is going to keep you alive so much longer. It's a really, really nice aspect for this build. If you can fit it in, if you don't have the uniques maybe, it's a really, really nice one. It can go on lots of different places as well, helm, chest, pants. So it'll really help if you don't have some of these uniques. Another one that's really good is this one, the ballistic one, that when you have fortify, your earth skills gain +2 damage, +2 ranks. So you're going to have fortify all the time. So you almost have permanently +2 ranks of your earth skills. Everything becomes an earth skill. So it's really, really useful. But again, you can't have everything on this build. There's not enough spaces. I'm already greedy and taking it offhand. But yeah, if you don't have the uniques, maybe try one of those two. That'd be a nice replacement. Okay, now onto the class specific stuff. The spirit boons. So the ones I'd be going for would be this one, 10% reduced damage from elites. There's a few others you could take here, but this one can be really good in high dungeons if you're getting like feared away and stuff. But I think this one is it's a constant. It's always there. It's really helpful. Then for the eagle, I'd go for 30% crit damage. There's a lot of things you can do on this build that really scale with crit damage. So I'd go for this one. If you're avoiding that, that's a nice one. I do like swooping attacks, and I just changed from swooping attacks to avian wrath, but up to you there. Depends what fits your build better. Then I'd go for this one on the wolf, extend the duration of your ultimate skill. That's your grizzly rage. You want to be grizzly raged as much as possible because it gives you the werebear form, it gives you damage reduction, and it gives you damage increase the longer you're in it. So this is really, really good because it's just going to ramp up your damage even further. And then on the snake, I would take two. I would take two aspects. So you can pick one where you take two. I would take two on the snake. You can take masochist. Crit strikes with shapeshifting skills heal you, and then nature damage up to 10% to reduce cooldown of your ultimate skill. You want to be in this as much as possible, and you do have some nature abilities. So if you look at if you highlight over the thing, it'll show you what's nature. So earthen bulwark's nature, and then your earth spike is nature. So you can reduce the cooldown of your ultimate, which is really, really useful. There's not much else. There's an argument that you can go into that for overpower. There's a lot of things we can do with overpower in this build, but I think these two work best. And the only other thing I would suggest doing is maybe dropping one of these and taking attack speed. So taking 2 for the eagle. But this is how I have it right now. I think I'm going to change it. I'm tempted to change it, but right now this feels the best. Okay, let's talk about the skill tree. So first thing you want to do is put 1 point into Earth Spike and 1 point into Enhanced Earth Spike. If you are leveling right now, I would put an extra point here. If you're, say, level 30, picking up this build, I would take this. So 45 for 4% of your base life. You're gonna run out of mana at spirit a lot on this build. Early on, you're gonna run out of spirit a lot. So you're gonna have to use Earth Spike a lot to get your spirit back. So using this will really help to increase your fortify and play on all your other abilities. So as you level up more, your spirit gets under control. There's a lot of things in the Paragon board that can give us more spirit regen. Once we get the aspects, we get a lot more spirit. We can maintain our spirit a lot better, and we can use this a lot less. So I would say, when you're leveling, have this here. Maybe once you feel really comfortable with the build and you've got spirit under control, you can take that out. Moving down into here, Pulverize. This is our #1 ability. This is our big, huge giga damage. This is the main thing, 5 out of 5 it. I'm luckily that with my gear, I get an extra 7 points in this. So it's 12 out of 5, which is huge. But yeah, this is a really, really, really good ability. You want to 5 out of 5 this. Enhanced, your Pulverize will overpower every 12 seconds while you're healthy. You're going to be healthy most of the time because you'll have so much fortify. And then enemies hit with Pulverize, deal 20% reduced damage. Everything's going to get hit with Pulverize, so everything's going to do 20% less damage. Onto the passives, I would 3 out of 3 this, so crit strikes against close enemy increased. And then you gain 9% damage reduction while in werebear form. The main point of this build is that you're in werebear form almost all the time, so that's perfect. It's like almost a constant % damage reduction. Over here, I'd put 1 point in this to in Heart of the Wild to get to Wild Impulses. You want a 3 out of 3 Wild Impulses, 15% more spirit cost, but 25% damage increase. That's higher because I've got some stuff for my gear, but 3 out of 3 it for a massive damage boost to Pulverize. Over here again, this is going to depend how far along you are. When you're very early, this is really good. Basic skills generate 18% more spirit. You're literally using this to get spirit. So this is kind of a no-brainer. As you level more and you get your spirit under control, again, you could start taking this out. But I still like it. I still find myself using this every now and again. Moving down to here, Earthen Bulwark, you want to take that. That's your big shield. And then you want this to make you unstoppable. Really good for getting out of stuff. And then use this. Casting it gives you 18% base life for Fortify. Huge. Fortify is amazing. Then we take Debilitating Roar. This reduces the damage of anything nearby by 70%. You want to take this one, Enhanced, which gives Fortify for 22% of life. So you see here, all our skills are given us Fortify. And then here, also slows enemies. This will give enemies around you crowd control, We get increased damage to crowd control enemies. So really, really, really helpful. Going down here, all we take are the passives. 9% increased damage to distant enemies, double if they're also slowed. As we've seen, everything around is going to be slowed. And with the shockwave aspect, as we use our pulverize, that's going to reach really far and we're going to get that 9% increased damage. This little earthen section here, you want to take everything. Earth skills deal 15% more damage to slowed enemies. Everything's going to be slowed. Crit strikes with earth skills fortify you. Then you have while you have fortify for 50% of your max life, your earth skills deal more damage. So I take all of these. I think they're all really, really good. I can't see any reason to drop any of those. Then on to trample. This is like your charge. It's also an unstoppable. Really, really helpful. I just 1 point this. I've got stuff from my items. Just 1 point in there. Trample deals extra damage. You don't really take this for the damage, in my opinion. You take it for the unstoppable and for the ability to just get into stuff and get out of stuff. You want to take this damage bonus so that you can get to this. Casting Trample grants 20 spirit. You can use it to get out of enemies, turn around and do a pulverize. Probably one hit in everything that you just got out of. Moving down to here, you want to take this here. Nature damage just to get to this. Defiance gives you nature damage increase for this. Your earth skills deal 12% increased damage to vulnerable enemies. It's a really nice one to have. Lots of things play on vulnerable, so it's a nice one to have. You could start taking this, but I just stop here. And then down here, Grizzly Rage. This is your ultimate. You become a bear. This is the thing that makes you a bear. If you don't have the unique, this is when you turn into the bear. The unique keeps you a bear always. But even if you have that unique, you still want this because it gives you a 20% damage reduction and your damage is increased by 3% every second you're a bear. So we take certain things. Kills extend the duration by 1 second. We also have the aspect, which gives us a longer time in bear form. The more we crit, I think it was. So then go down here. You're unstoppable while Grizzly Rage is active. And then you gain life as fortify every second you're in the bear form. So this is just such a big move because we have so much that gives us fortify. We can fortify up massively and then flip that into damage. On the passives here, defensive posture, increase the amount of fortify you gain by all sorts by 15%, massive. And then here, 15% chance when struck to fortify you for 4% base life. Now, I would say if you have your mana under control, if your mana is completely fine and you have no mana issues, you drop the point here and you drop these three because you won't be using this much. So I'd drop 3 points here once you're happy, go down to here, all the way down, and I'd take this. As you start pushing the really high keys, what you're going to see is things are going to crowd control you a lot. Things are going to do that to you a lot. You're going to be on the back foot a lot with the aspects in certain dungeons. So this is really nice. It reduces the duration by 9%, tripled if you have fortify over 50% of your life, which you will. So you kind of get in, 27% reduced duration on control effects. I think like one of the number one reasons hardcore characters die is because they get crowd controlled and sent into traps. So this is a really good one for survivability in late game. So I'd probably move 3 points down here once you're 70 plus pushing nightmare dungeons. Finally, you want to go for this. This is probably the bread and butter key passive. I think it's amazing. It's one of the best key passives there is. Lucky Hit has a chance to restore your spirit completely and make the next hits crit strikes. This is huge. When you have a big pack and you burn down all your spirit and then you hit that lucky hit and it just fills back to the top, it's an amazing feeling. It's really, really good. So I'd definitely take Earthen Might. And that's the skill tree. Hopefully that's explained everything well enough, but any questions, let me know down below. That's what I'd take. Okay, rather than go through my Paragon board, which is, I'm not level 100 on my Druid, so rather than go through mine, I've threw together a D4 builder, which I'll throw down below in the comments. So this is what I would do. This is how I would run this and how I'm building mine out. I'm like 3 boards in right now, but this is how I plan to take mine. First, I'd go up here to the glyph, and I would take Exploit. This gives you vulnerable, increases damage to vulnerable targets. Really, really useful. We have certain things that you saw that scale on vulnerable damage and that work well with vulnerable damage. So I take this and then take enough things around it to get to the 25 dex. Move up on the left side to get the damage bonus, 10% damage. And then you want to attach your first board. I would go for the Ancestral Guidance board. Maybe that's a controversial opinion because there's so many other boards that give damage, but you can't do damage without spirit. And druids suffer so bad in the early levels for spirit. You have no spirit, you run out of spirit, and when you're just standing there using your basic attack, it's a bad feeling. So you want to be pulverizing it as much as possible, which is why I think this build works really well with Ancestral Guidance. So attach the Ancestral Guidance board, head up to the glyph, and I like Undaunted. Every 5 intelligence, give you 2% increased damage while fortified. You're going to be fortified all the time. You also gain 10% damage reduction the more fortify you have. you're going to be fortified all the time. So this is a really nice one, Undaunted Glyph. Get enough stuff around it. While you're here, you can grab this, 14% core skill damage. Luckily, Pulverize is a core skill damage. Around it as well, you've got 7% core skill damage, 7% core skill damage, 7% core skill damage. So that's a huge increase to our Pulverize. I'd also head up here and I would grab core skill damage, core skill damage, core skill damage, all these up here. Then I would go up to the left. You can grab this for 8% maximum spirit, 8 maximum spirit, 4 maximum spirit, 4 maximum spirit. Really useful. 8 max spirit, 2 spirit on kill, 1 spirit on kill, and then more max spirit. So with this being your first board, you're getting like 20 odd spirit extra, spirit on kill. All this is really useful, and you're getting some Pulverize damage, and you're getting a really nice glyph that gives you damage. It's a really nice start, I think. Then I go up and get the legendary node. After spending 75 spirit, you deal 30% increased damage. Then I would head left and I would attach the Earthen Devastation board. Everything we use becomes an earth skill, or we play on earth skills into a werebear form at least. So it's really nice. And the beauty of this is this board also combines with crowd control. So I'd go and I'd go straight to I'd flip it. You have to flip some of these boards. So I'd flip them like this. I'd go and get the Earthen Devastation node. Your earth skills deal 30% increased damage to enemies afflicted by crowd control. You see it all coming together now because everything's going to be slowed. Slow is a crowd control. Then I go down here, 15% damage to crowd controlled enemies, crit strike damage to crowd controlled enemies, and all the stuff around it. You know, it's all more damage to crowd controlled enemies. Go across here, grab that on the way. And then I go up here, more crit strike with earth skills, crit strike damage with earth skills, and I get the node. I like the werebear node. This is where I would say go with what you feel is best. I like the werebear node. With the unique as well, you're permanently in werebear form. So increased damage in werebear form is amazing. Damage reduction in werebear form. And then I go down here and I grab this. Earth skill damage, crit strike damage to crowd controlled enemies, and everything around it. Earth damage, crit damage, earth damage, crit damage to controlled enemies. This is just, it's just such a nice board. There's other things up here, armor, damage, everything. I just like these. Then I would head down this board to survival instincts. And on here, you've got damage while healthy. You're going to be healthy a lot because of your fortify. Over here, damage to healthy enemies. Really good for that first hit, doing extra damage. Then I go down to get the glyph in here. And I like the spirit glyph, which works on crit strikes. You've seen a lot of crit strike stuff in the skills, in the Paragon board. So this works really well with your crits. Take everything around it to get to the crit strikes. Damage while in werebear form, 10%, amazing. Armor while in werebear form, 2%, amazing. Down here, damage reduction while fortified, you're going to be fortified all the time. And just take all the blue nodes around them. Every single one works really well. And then I go down here and get 10% werebear skill damage, overpower damage. All this stuff is just so good. This board is 10 out of 10. I get the legendary node while you're at it. 1% increased damage up to 50% for every 1% difference in current life between you and the enemy. Amazing. You're always going to be at full health. So this is really, really good. That is how I would run the board. The only other thing to talk about is the stats on your gear. If you've watched all the way through, you kind of know, you kind of hearing the key things. You're hearing crit strike a lot. You're hearing damage to vulnerable enemies a lot. You're hearing damage to crowd controlled enemies a lot. Earth skill damage, and spirit issues. They're the big 4 things. So I'd look for that on your gear. That's what I'd be doing. Ranks in Pulverize is huge. You've seen I've got like, I think 12 ranks in Pulverize, which is amazing. I'd definitely go for that. Spirit cost reduction is very, very important, especially early on. Vulnerable damage, crit strike chance, crit strike damage, damage to slowed enemies 30%. All these things are really, really good. Gems. I would take the blue gems. What are the blue gems called? Emeralds? Sapphires. I take sapphires in all of your armor because it gives damage reduction while fortified. You rack all of that up, it really does add up. And then I'd also stick sapphires in your weapons. So 12% crit strike damage to crowd controlled enemies. Again, everything's going to be crowd controlled. That's really good. And then I would just go for skulls in your accessories for 250 armor increase on your accessories. That's what I do. Sapphires everywhere, except for your jewelry. Skulls on your jewelry. That's it. But yeah, that's the build. I can't say enough good about this build. It has incredible damage, AoE, range, amazing defense. You can easily go and fight. I go and fight stuff in nightmare dungeons that are like 79, 80, and it's fine. I die the odd time, you know, but generally it's fine. I can still 3 or 4 hit them. It's completely fine. It's a really nice build. I highly recommend this build. I've used it for about 20, 30 levels. It's amazingly fun, very strong. Its only downside is it's a bit slow, but you're a druid. The only way you get crazy speed on a druid is if you take something like werewolf, but this build is amazing. I highly recommend it. that's it. If this has helped, let me know in the comments. Subscribe for more. I also stream. I'll link that down below if you want to come hang out live, talk about builds. I finished off this build yesterday live, so yeah, come hang out if you want to watch and chat. Other than that, take care. Catch you in the next one. Bye.